Even though it's the capital of the ever-popular Cycladic island group, Syros Island is completely underrated. In this video, come see Syros through my eyes. I spent 5 days there last October, including my birthday. Of all the islands I visited on that trip, Syros was my favorite. In fact, not long after I arrived, I texted my sister, hey, I could see myself coming back here and doing some slow travel, staying here for a month or two at a time. Syros is not as popular with tourists, and I'm not really sure why, but it has a more local vibe to it because of that. It's actually one of the reasons I chose to visit it. It's quieter, but not in the same way as Syros, which I talked about in the last video. Since I was visiting Greece in October, which is off-peak season, I wanted to go somewhere where things were unlikely to be completely shut down just because the tourist season was over. So Syros made sense from that standpoint. But also, I chose Syros because it is absolutely gorgeous. Syros was once under Venetian rule, and evidence of this is in its architecture. I arrived to Syros by ferry, and of all of the ferries that I took during my time island hopping in Greece, this one was the largest. I was coming from Syros with a stopover in Naxos where I spent some time getting lunch and just walking around near the port. My waiter, where I stopped to get lunch in Naxos, just kind of on a quieter part of the beach here, was Pakistani as well, and so we connected over that fast. I enjoyed a nice seaside lunch and then coffee by the port, and then made my way back onto the ferry to head to Syros. When I arrived, the host of my accommodation, who had been texting me periodically throughout the day, because when you take ferries later in the day, there's a chance that there's going to be a delay, and people know this, it's just accepted. And so I didn't arrive in Syros until 6 in the evening, I want to say, somewhere around there, and so we had been in touch, and when I arrived, my host of my accommodation was there to meet me on site and walk me back to where I would be staying, which was only about a 5-minute walk away. I absolutely adored the place where I stayed. I'm so glad I picked it. And my host was so kind. He and his mother run these 2 apartments that they have completely redesigned and renovated in their own style, which is gorgeous. And there's a nice balcony. This was a huge selling point for me that looks out over the water, over the port, and the main area of Miaouli, which is the main city in Syros, and that is where I chose to stay. It was also really nice to be right in the thick of the action when I went downstairs or even as I looked out on my balcony, but it's nice and super quiet and calm in my actual apartment where I stayed. If you are heading to Syros, and I would say this is good for 1 person, maybe 2, you can follow the QR code to book my exact stay. Let's get into how I spent my time in Syros and some things to do on Syros Island. I spent 5 days there, including my birthday, a nice little solo birthday for me in Syros. On my very first evening after I arrived and I saw that gorgeous bathtub in my apartment, I decided I needed to go out, get a feel for the city, walk some of the streets and see what was up. It was so picturesque, so lovely, and I had it on my agenda for the evening to go and find a bath bomb so that I could take a nice relaxing bath. So I did find a place with a lovely woman behind the counter. I believe it's called Physio Soap Lab, and you should stop in there either way because they also have a lot of great moisturizers and a lot of locally made goods that would make really great gifts if you're on Syros and looking for souvenirs to bring home. Next day, I decided to go for a swim. I'm getting excited even reliving that by saying this to you. It was mid-October and it was still perfect swim weather. There are several different beach options in Syros, so if you know you want to go to Syros and spend a lot of time on a big, beautiful sandy beach, look into that because that's not the one that I'm going to talk about, but it exists. The one I chose was a unique option and very convenient, and one that if you are going to Syros, please go to it. It's called Vaporia Beach, but it's not the typical beach that you would expect. It's a concrete beach, which is a lot cooler than it sounds, I promise. So some things to know, there are hooks along the wall, and then on those umbrella poles, there are hooks as well to hang your things up, which you definitely want to do because when the ferry goes by, it does cause the waves to rise. and come up onto the concrete space where you might be sitting or where you might have your things laid out. So you definitely want to hang your things at this beach. And then you can spend some time sitting on the concrete, sunning, and then climb down into the water. There's like a little ladder that you can climb down, or you can jump in if you like, but I climbed down. I popped in and out of the water several times. Now, the most important, wonderful part about this beach is once you climb into the water and you're swimming in this beautiful, beautiful sea, you turn around, you're treading water, just imagine, you turn around and you see this incredible Venetian-style church against the sky, the blue sky, the mustard yellow color of the building. It is one of those like pinch me moments you get when you're traveling where you're like, wow, look where I am, and look what I'm doing, look what I'm looking at, and look what's around me. It's the magic of travel. Like, that is one of the moments, and I really want you to experience it if and when you go to Syros, so please go and do that. That said, one thing to be cautious about, because safety first, is when the ferry, like I mentioned, goes by and the waves get higher, if you're not a confident swimmer or you're a nervous swimmer, I just want you to be aware, because it kind of caught me off guard and was a little bit frightening. The waves get really high, so you're kind of bobbing up and down, and for a while I felt a little bit out of control, but I wasn't in control. I was just treading water a little bit harder. Be mindful of that. If that makes you nervous, just stay closer to the shore or the rocks where you can easily get out of the water if you want to. After that first time, I did try. I popped in and out. It's so easy to pop in and out, and you can dry off for a while, then get back in the water. It's really nice. But I did kind of try to avoid being in the water when it got really high like that, just because I personally didn't feel comfortable. And as a solo traveler and a solo swimmer, I definitely made sure to stay closer to where other people were, and specifically closer to the concrete area, like the area where all my stuff was and where I could easily get the ladder to get out if I needed to, or God forbid, but where people could see me if I needed help for any reason. Aside from that, the most dangerous thing that happened to me during this is at one point I was twirling around. Y'all, I was having the time of my life. I was just twirling around in the water in the sun, and I did get a tiny cut on the bottom of my foot from a sharp rock. Nothing that some Vaseline and Band-Aids couldn't fix. All in all, like I said, this is a must-have experience when you go to Syros. After swimming, I went to get a facial. I wanted to treat myself to something nice for my birthday, but I didn't want to spend the actual day of my birthday indoors for 2 hours getting a facial, because a facial is something that can be relaxing in the moment, but it's more like it feels nice once it's done. The actual process of it, kind of like going to get your nails done, can feel a little bit tedious and time consuming. Anyways, this is just my inner dialogue and thought process around getting facials. But I went and got a 2-hour facial the day before my birthday, so that on my actual birthday, just do whatever the heck I wanted and not be time bound by any kind of appointments. Now, this was not your ordinary facial. This was a deep cleansing facial that lasted 2 hours, and it was about €70 free tip. So a lot of bang for buck there. They used a lot of different tools that they explained to me what they were, and I don't remember. It was a little bit painful because they extracted from pores I didn't even know existed, but you know you're getting deeply, deeply skin cleaned. And it ended in a really positive way with this jelly rose mask. The women were so lovely, they were so kind, and the woman who owns the shop, the salon, is actually working on, she has a lot of proprietary technology and proprietary methodologies that she's actually shopping around to different hotel spas and different spas around Greece. So it's kind of cool to be there and hear her story and her process in this family-run place. I was able to book an appointment by contacting them. I don't remember now if I did it via their online form, but I'll put the details in the description so you can get everything. After that, I grabbed a to-go lunch/dinner from this souvlaki place that I went to several times. It was very good, very fast, and very affordable. Great for if you want something quick that you can just take away. So I brought it back, and then I watched some TV, and then later that evening I enjoyed watching the sunset from my balcony. And then the next day was my birthday. Now, this is not the first time that I've spent a solo birthday abroad. I had an amazing 33rd birthday in Paris a few years ago, and I honestly think that it is so fun and so special to be able to take yourself out for a day, whether you're traveling or in your hometown, on your birthday. So it's becoming one of my favorite ways to spend that day every year. So the main items on my agenda were to take myself out for a nice brunch, or in my case, breakfast, because I'm such an early riser, but we can call it brunch, and then to do some exploration and then take myself out for a nice dinner. So food, food, sounds like a pretty great day to me. I got dressed and went to a place called addtl for breakfast. Then I made my way up to Syros, which is like kind of the medieval older part of the town, of the city. It was a hot day, and there are very many steps to get up to Syros. So I was a sweaty mess for sure, but I'm glad I got up there and I made a stop at one of the cafes at the very top for lucmades and lemonade. And then that evening, I took myself out for dinner. The place that I really wanted to go to, that I had like found on Google Maps that had good reviews, I walked all the way to it. It was kind of a sketchy walk, but not really. But it was closed, which was not reflected anywhere. So then I ended up pivoting, walking back toward where I was staying, and found a really popular restaurant and popped in there for dinner instead. One thing to note here, speaking of restaurants and food and dining out in Greece, is that if you have any kind of dietary restrictions or allergies, for sure, make sure that you do some kind of a printout in Greek of exactly what those are and what you can and cannot have. This is something, I have a friend who I've traveled with before who has several food allergies, and she does this. She has a translated list of her allergies that she brings when she travels. I just think that's best practice if you have severe allergies anyway, but for me, I thankfully don't have severe food allergies, but I do not eat pork. And in my 3-ish weeks in Greece, I think I accidentally ate/was served pork at least twice. One of them was this evening on my birthday. So I told the waiter I don't eat pork, asked for recommendations. One of the things he pointed to was a salad that looked really delicious, and I ordered that as my starter. And it came to me, and there was something in there that I just didn't know what it was. I was like, maybe this is fig. I really could not figure out what it was. I tried to Google it, I tried to look it up, and then I looked up the salad again, and I tried to find all the ingredients. I don't remember. I might have tried some of it to see what it was. Was it a vegetable or was it meat? It turned out that it was something porky. And I went and told them, I was like, hey, this is pork. And they're like, oh, that counts as pork? And once I knew what it was like, yeah, it very much so does. So it's just kind of funny. I don't know. Sometimes things get lost in translation. It's like when I used to live in Madrid, my vegetarian friends, it wasn't enough at that time, more than a decade ago, to say vegetarian. You had to say something without eyes, because to them vegetarian meant fish was okay. So anyways, that's just a little tangent. These things happen when you're traveling, and thankfully for me it's not an allergy and it was okay. And they brought me another salad that was pork free and it was perfectly fine. Otherwise, I got this seafood pasta that I thought was going to be pretty basic and meh, but it was actually one of the best seafood pastas I've ever had. There was fennel in it. While I was eating my food, there had been a couple that was sat next to me. The woman asked me about my dish. Turned out that they were from the US. She talked to me a little bit about my dish. Ended up ordering the same thing and loving it. And then the three of us just got into a conversation. My solo birthday dinner turned into a dinner with friends instead, new friends. Very nice. We are now friends on Instagram. And yeah, it was just a nice evening. And then I took myself out to get some gelato, which I had just been in Italy before coming to Greece. And as much as I love Greek food, I'll stick to Italy for gelato. Is where I landed. As I was walking, I saw some live music playing at this restaurant. was just a lovely, lovely day to myself. Now, Syros actually has a pretty solid brunch and coffee scene. So the next morning I went to another cafe called Armadillo. And then I spent a few hours sightseeing. Before we go on, just a reminder to hit subscribe. I have more Greece videos that came before this and more that are on their way, so hit subscribe so you don't miss those.
Just got back from a bit of exploration around the town, and on my way back I stopped at this bakery to pick up some traditional sweets to try. I got a milk cream baklava. I'm not really big on baklava, so when I heard milk cream, I do like creamy custardy treats, so I got the milk cream one. I got an almond orange cookie, and those were the two that I picked, and then he said this one is also really good. So to get this was a really nice looking bakery. This is what it's called. It came out to $2.50, so that was great. Then I came back to my B&B where I'm staying and found this all neatly wrapped up. I've now opened it, all neatly wrapped up. Little treat, mid-stay treat, on top of all the other treats they gifted me with when I first got here from the same bakery. And these are, I already ate one of these little cookies with some kind of a jam in them. They are so, here, I might as well take a bite for you. So good. It's like a shortbread. Got my coffee and iced flat white from a place on the water called Avocado to cut the sweetness in case it's too sweet. Let's try these. This is an orange almond cookie. Excuse my chipped nails. Very nice. And then it does take a turn toward very sweet. Cleanse the palate. There's the other almond cookie, the one that the man at the bakery recommended and said was really, really good. That's okay. I'm not big on almond paste things, and that's a little almond pasty. And now the milk cream baklava. I like it because of the milk cream, which is why I got this one. I just am not really big on baklava, and so I don't like the syrupy sweetness part of it. The phyllo dough is okay, but I think this is the one that I was gonna like of the options. I do recommend, if you're on Syros Island, to go to this bakery. This is the bakery.
I had a really great lunch one day at this place. Super simple yet so delicious. I'm pretty sure I got the meatballs here. Syros also has some great bars and cocktail bars if that's your scene. Not a super hyped up nightlife, but if that kind of quieter loungy vibe is your scene, I think you'll find plenty to do on that front. I didn't go to any of them, but they're there. There are also some great shops for food, bath products, clothes, stationery, local goods if you want to do some shopping here. And you're likely to just run into these as you wander the streets. Now, Now, one recommendation that had not been on my radar at all, but was suggested to me by the host of my accommodations, was to go to the newly opened local museum. Unfortunately, when I went, the times reflected for the opening hours of this museum on Google Maps were incorrect. So I got there, she was like, sorry, we just closed. And I was kind of bummed out, but she allowed me to look around for a little while as she closed. And then she sweetly showed me around a little bit herself. It was just very, very kind of her. I only got to spend about 10 or 15 minutes. It's not a very big museum. It would maybe take you an hour or so, but it's a cool way to learn about the history of Miaouli and of Syros. So if getting in touch with the local history is something that's important to you while you're traveling, you will have the opportunity to do that on Syros. Now, it can be helpful to know that Syros does have, in addition to its ferry port, an airport. I actually departed by plane, and the airport is very, very small and very simple to navigate, and just adds to the accessibility of Syros and gives you another reason to add it to your Greece itinerary. What more is there to say? I adore Syros. I really hope to visit again. If you have the chance to go there, you should. I have more Greece videos coming, so hit subscribe and head to the blog linked in the description for more travel guides and tips.